Why did love put a gun in my hand? Why did love put a gun in my hand? Why did love...
Hey everybody, what is up? My name is Martin and welcome to AAA Digest. So we're back with yet another RDR2 video, and this one is a character video that revolves around the returning John Marston, RDR1's protagonist, who, let's be real, is viewed by many people as the greatest protagonist in video games in general. I know that's debatable, but good luck following that one, Mr. Morgan. But here's what we know about RDR2's John Marston. Number one, he was recruited from an orphanage. So John Marston's mother died during childbirth, and his father, an illiterate Scottish immigrant, died when he was 8 years old. Marston was quickly sent to an orphanage where he spent the majority of his teenage years, although he later chose to run away, seek an adventure, and in order to find himself. Shortly after fleeing the orphanage, he crosses paths with Dutch van der Linde, the leader of the soon-to-be most feared and notorious gang in America, known as Dutch's Gang, compiled of outlaws such as Arthur Morgan, Jose Matthews, Bill Williamson, and his future wife, Abigail. Despite initially feeling intimidated by the gang, Dutch becomes an important father figure in John's life, teaching him to read, shoot, hunt, and to see all that's good in the world. Marston in turn adopts Dutch's life philosophy. An independent life equals a fulfilled life. Thus, he alongside Dutch and the majority of the gang oppose government control and promote the idea of freedom and independence. Thus, he rides with the gang, committing robberies, over 40 bank heists, many murders, multiple kidnappings, and he quickly becomes an established member of Dutch's gang, to the extent in which he becomes one of Dutch's favourites. Young, confident, fearless, and a masterful gunman, marksman, rider, and hunter. And according to Marston in RDR1, the gang rob the rich and give to the underprivileged. At first, at least, their actions were just, although as the gang become notorious throughout the land, government officials aim to cement their control over the region by bringing in all members of Dutch's gang alive, but preferably killed.
You will die savagely.
And as Marston, Dutch, and the gang are pursued across America, things take a drastic turn for the worst within the gang as tensions increase and conflicts begin to emerge. Number two, he's a father and husband. So upon fleeing the orphanage and stumbling upon the band of outlaws known as Dutch's Gang, it is here where John meets Abigail, who at the time is working as a prostitute within the gang. She sleeps with multiple members of the gang, including Dutch, Bill Williamson, and I assume much more, and this is backed up by Dutch van der Linde in RDR1. Yet despite this, Marston and Abigail still manage to form a strong connection throughout the years. Surrounded by outlaws, John and Abigail both bond romantically, that's a weird way of putting it, and they eventually have a son called Jack Marston, born in 1895, and they also have a daughter who is currently unnamed. And they are both raised alongside the gang and experience a difficult childhood as Abigail and Marston take part in criminal activities on behalf of the gang. So we can assume Jack and his sister spend some time alone. Also, based on the last trailer, this game begins sometime during 1899, so Jack will be 4 years old. Also, Dutch and Bill Williamson are said to be like uncles to Jack for a time, telling stories of John Marston's actions, and in some regard, they help raise Marston's family alongside him. During Red Dead Redemption 1, Jack states, "You think I didn't sit up and listen to Dutch and Bill telling all them stories? You think I don't know who you are?" And this is directed at his father, John Marston. So despite being extremely young, Jack and Marston's daughter know their father almost too well, but we shall see Marston's children in Red Dead Redemption 2, interacting with Dutch's gang, Abigail, and John himself. Number three, Marston loses his daughter. Now, very little is known about John Marston and Abigail's daughter. Even her name hasn't even been mentioned. In RDR1, John states he had a daughter, but she died, while discussing his past with Bonnie McFarlane. Later in the game, he describes how she died of an unknown type of fever, and based on a quote from Javier Escuela from RDR1, as John Marston hunts him down for the federal government, he states, "I hope you and your wife and your children rot in hell. meaning he's unaware of her death at this stage. This would point towards her death taking place between the years 1908 and 1911, after John has officially left the gang. Honestly, I hope to see how this happens. It's a slight mystery what exactly happened to his daughter. Maybe it is simply a sickness that happened back then, so we shall see. But just know, as a character, John Marston has been through some shit. That's putting it lightly. To quote Bonnie McFarlane, "You poor man." Number 4, he is brash, serious, confident, yet determined. Now, it has been confirmed that we'll see a very different side to John Marston in RDR 2. Marston, the ruthless outlaw and cold gunman. He's brash, fearless, overly confident, and almost naive in terms how he views the world at first, because he remains angry about his past, which, let's be honest, was a difficult one. So it might not be the Marston we've become very accustomed to in RDR 1. John is very much a man who has learned from his past and willing to leave it behind, and develops a much clearer perspective as he gets older and realizes that family is the most important thing to him. So do expect some frustrating moments deriving from the youthful, passionate but reckless John Marston. And in terms of John's morals, he's extremely complex. In RDR 1, Marston has a very clear code, and aspects of his outlook on life are almost befitting of a man that's well ahead of his time. He's polite to women, does attempt to avoid conflicts, and despite living in the early 1900s, he isn't racist. Marston actually makes fun of people for being so close-minded and for having that perspective. He, alongside Dutch, also believes new technology and the government as a whole are bad for the world. Quote, "Most men can't handle power." Yet he's also very quick to anger, and John lacks empathy in regards to the people he has killed or is killing throughout RDR 1. And when his patience runs dry, violence is usually the answer to his problems, and he's kind of fine with it. So in RDR 2, we could see that aspect of John on another level as he causes major violence, commits crimes and kidnappings for the gang in a bid to impress gang leader Dutch van der Linde. Number 4, Bill Williamson is his rival. So originally Bill Williamson is a friend and brother in arms of John Marston, and John actually trusts Bill around Jack to the extent in which Jack begins to view Bill as an uncle of some sorts. They are, in theory, family, yet Bill's friendship with John soon turns into a bitter rivalry over Dutch's attention. Bill becomes jealous of Dutch's love for John, as Marston has earned a stronger position within the gang. He's actually contributing towards the gang's decision making. His impact on the gang is more profound, while Bill isn't exactly trusted to make decisions because he doesn't have the required wit. He's viewed as an enforcer, not a thinker, in the eyes of Dutch van der Linde and John Marston. To quote Bill from RDR 1, "You must think I was born yesterday. You always did think I was an idiot." And this is directed towards John. Also, to some extent, Bill Williamson resents John's connection with Abigail and is quite jealous due to the fact Abigail chose John despite both Bill and Abigail's brief romance, which Bill attempts to actually use against John in the hope of getting under his skin. Based on a quote from RDR 1 yet again, "Jack probably ain't even your son, haha." So do expect some heated exchanges from both John and Bill Williamson. The two men have a sketchy history together, which is widely apparent in RDR 1, and we'll thankfully get to see more of it in RDR 2. Number 5, family is his biggest weakness. Cheesy title, but that's expected from me. So in RDR 1, John's major goal is saving his family from the federal government. He is forced to hunt down his former friends and brothers in arms, Bill Williamson, Javier Escuela, and his father figure, Dutch van der Linde. Their lives in exchange for Abigail and Jack's. And don't forget Uncle, the family drunk, recruited from Dutch's gang, who was the gang's drunk. So we'll see him in the game. So despite leaving the gang and spending years avoiding a life of crime, it is his love for his family that drives John towards his previous gruesome and violent path. Now, family being his weakness isn't exactly a bad thing. In all honesty, it's one of John's more redeemable qualities. See what I did there? But it's a point that's worth touching on in regards to Red Dead Redemption 2. The federal government are capable of using John's love for his family against him throughout Red Dead Redemption 1. It wouldn't be a surprise to fans to see a similar thing happen to John in RDR 2 as Dutch falls into insanity. He would not be above using John's family to ensure John's devotion. Number 6, John Marston is left for dead. Now, quite possibly the most character-defining moment for John Marston comes in the form of a failed bank robbery during 1906, in which John is shot and left for dead by the group of outlaws he's seen as family. Quote, "I left the gang after they left me. So it has been suggested that Dutch begins to see John as a liability, overly confident and somewhat reckless. And if Bill Williamson is to be believed, Dutch grows tired of John during the gang's heyday, stating he's over arrogant, and to quote Bill from RDR1, Dutch, Javier and I wanted you dead. We all did. So it would come as no surprise to see this as a deliberately failed robbery planned by Dutch, Bill and Javier in order to kill off Marston. But we shall see. But yeah guys, that is the end of the video. Obviously there's no reason to mention the ending of RDR1. It's been quite a few years and it still hurts. It's too soon. I'm joking, although I don't think that moment has any correlation to Red Dead Redemption 2, although we could get some foreshadowing, I guess. But the next character video will revolve around our good old pal, Bill Williamson. Been requested, so it's coming, so stay tuned for that one. And if you want any other character videos, let us know. We'll start working on them. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and for more RDR2 content, stay tuned here on AAA Digest. Love you guys, bye bye.
Yes, everything's absolutely splendid.
Walking down the street and you hear that heavy beat, can't help but walk your feet down. Wait till you meet